So, good day, sir. I'm Marlo B. Laurente from Group 12, and today we're going to talk about homogeneous linear equations with constant coefficients, the auxiliary equation of distinct roots. So, for homogeneous linear equations with constant coefficients, we have the general formula of a sub 0 times d raised to the power of n times y over dx raised to the power of n, wherein it is the nth derivative of y with respect to x plus a sub 1 times d raised to the power of n minus 1 times y all over dx raised to the power of n minus 1 and so on and so forth until we get a sub n minus 1 times dy over dx plus a sub ny is equals to 0. So here we now have the general form of the homogeneous linear equations with constant coefficients. But this form may also be rewritten in the form of f of d times y is equals to 0. Since y is equals to e raised to the power of m times x, we can substitute it into this equation. Therefore, we get f of d times e raised to the power of mx is equals to 0. Wherein f of d here is called the differential operator. And now, we substitute m into the differential operator, and then we can get f of m is equals to 0 if m is a root. So we recall that if you substitute a certain root into a polynomial, we always get 0. So let its root be m sub 1, m sub 2, and m sub 3. Then the form may be rewritten as y is equals to c sub 1 times e raised to the power of m1 times x, wherein the m1 here are the roots got from here, plus c sub 2 is equals to m sub 2 times x plus c sub 3 times e raised to the power of m3x, and so on and so forth. So wherein c1, c2, c3, and cn are arbitrary constants. So for example, d squared y over dx squared plus 3t dy over dx minus 4y is equal to 0. Then we can rewrite this equation into capital D squared y plus 3 capital dy minus 4y is equal to 0. Factor out y from the equation, and then we get capital D, the quantity of capital D squared plus 3d minus 4 times y is equal to 0. Substitute m into the equation, we get m squared plus 3m minus 4 is equal to 0. Since the equation is in quadratic form, we can easily factor it out with m plus 4 times m minus 1 is equal to 0. Therefore, the roots of the equation is m is equal to negative 4 and positive 1. Substituting these roots into this equation, we get y is equals to c sub 1 times e raised to the power of negative 4x plus c sub 2 times e raised to the power of x, since the root here is only 1.
So for example 1, we have this problem right here. Now for this problem, first we have to convert it into the differential formula, which is equal to 0. And so this equation will turn into d squared y plus 11 dy plus 24 y is equal to 0. Now, if you observe here, they have y, so we have to factor that out, which then will result into d squared plus 11 d plus 24 plus y is equal to 0. Pause. Now next, we have to turn this into the auxiliary equation. So that's where we let d is equal to m, since y is equal to e raised to mx. So this equation turn into m squared plus 11m plus 24 is equal to 0. Now if we factor that out, we will get m plus 8 times m plus 3. And so our root will be m1 is equal to negative 8, and our m2 is equal to negative 3. Now we have to plug in into the formula, into the general formula. So that would be y is equals to c sub 1 e raised to m1x plus c sub 2 e raised to m2x, and so on. So our final answer will be y is equals to c1e raised to negative 8x plus c sub 2 e raised to negative 3x. That's the final answer.
So, good morning everyone. For example number 2 is d cubed y over dx cubed plus 2d squared y over dx cubed minus 5dy over dx minus 6 is equal to 0. So, first is convert this differential equation into its differential form, which is f of d times y is equal to 0. So, d cubed, since this is third differential equation, and y, which is its dependent variable, plus 2d squared y minus 5 dy minus 6y, which is equal to 0. So we should factor out y. So d cubed plus 2d squared minus 5d minus 6 times y, which is equal to 0. So, notice natin na nag-take na siya sa form of its differential form, which is f of dy, which is equal to 0. So, f of d times y, which is equal to 0. So, next is convert this differential form into its auxiliary equation. So, para magawa yan, we let d, which is equal to m, since d, which is equal to m, since y is equal to m raised to the power of mx. So, d, which is equal to m, so magiging m cubed plus 2m squared minus 5m minus 6. So, next step is to find its roots. So, to find its roots, we need to use the P over Q method. So, P over Q method. So, this 6 here serves as your P, and your m here, m cube here, serves as your Q. So, we take all the multiples of 6 in the numerator and all the multiples of 1 in the denominator. So, all the multiples of 6 would be positive negative 1, positive negative 2, positive negative 3, and positive negative 6. And all the multiples of 1 is just positive negative 1. So, let's take for instance negative 3 as its root. So negative 3. Then copy mo lang yung coefficient dito, which is 1, 2, negative 5, and negative 6. Then bring down 1. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. So 2 plus negative 3, it's negative 1. Then negative 1 times negative 3, that's 3. So negative 5 plus 3, that's negative 2. And negative 2 times negative 3 is 6. Negative 6 plus 6, which is equal to 0. Therefore, your first root would be negative 3. So, yung magiging coefficient na ng new auxiliary equation would be this. And minusan mo ng 1 degree yung 3 since nakuha na yung first root, which is negative 3. So, that would become 1, which is m squared minus negative minus m minus 2, which is equal to 0. Then, kukunin mo na naman yung root niya, and pagkuha ng root nito is i-factor mo lang siya. So, alam na natin kung paano pag-factor ng quadratic equation. Pwede mong gamitan ng quadratic quadratic equation, pwede mo gamitan ng quadratic formula, pwede din i-factor mo na lang kung factorable lang siya. So, ang factor nito would be m minus 2 and m plus 1. Therefore, your second root would be 2, and your third root would be negative 1. So, i-plug in mo lang siya sa general formula na sinabi kanina na y, which is equal to c1 e raised to the power of m1x plus c2 e raised to the power of m2x plus c3 e raised to the power of m3x plus so on and so forth cn e raised to the power of mnx. So this is the y. So yung y natin dito is hindi siya parati na y, nagdepende siya kung ano yung dependent variable dito sa equation na given. So in here the dependent variable is y, so lalagyan natin y equals. So c1, hindi pa natin alam kung ano yung C1 since this is arbitrary constant, and dapat siya makuha, i-lesson lang siya sa ibang topic. So C1e raised to the power of m1, or m1 here is negative 3, negative 3x plus C2 times e raised to the power of m2, or m2 is 2, so 2x plus C3 e raised to the power of m3, which is negative 1, so this should be negative x. So our auxiliary equation using this differential equation would be y is equal to c1 times e raised to the power of negative 3x plus c2 times e raised to the power of 2x plus c3 times e raised to the power of negative x. So example number 3 is 2d cubed y over dx cubed plus d squared y over dx squared minus 13 dy over dx plus 6, which is equal to 0. So again, we convert this into differential form, which is 2d cubed y as our dependent variable plus d squared minus 13d plus 6, which is equal to 0, diba? Then dy pala to, y is equal to 0. Then isolate the y's, 2d cubed plus d squared minus 13d plus 6 times y, which is equal to 0. So note that the differential form would be like this, f of d times y, which is equal to 0. So, di ba? Same na siya. f of d, which is 2d cubed plus d squared minus 13d plus 6 times y, same na siya ng form na ganito. So, again, convert na naman to into auxiliary equation. Para makuha yung auxiliary equation natin, we let d equals m since y is equal to e raised to the power of mx. So, this would become 2m cubed plus m squared minus 13m plus 6 is equal to 0. So, again, para makuha yung factor nito, we let this as our p and we let this as our q. So, p over q na method. And we take all the multiples of 6 in the numerator and we take all the multiples of q in the denominator. So, all the multiple of 6 include positive negative 1, positive negative 2, positive negative 3, positive negative 6. And all the multiples of q, which is 2, include positive negative 1 and positive negative 2. So, let's take 1/2 for instance as its root. So, 1/2. Then, copy the coefficients which are 2, 1, negative 13, and 6. Then, bring down 2. 2 times 1/2, that's 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 times 1/2 is 1. Negative 13 plus 1, which is negative 12. And negative 12 times 1/2 is negative 6. 6 plus negative 6, which is 0. Therefore, our root number 1, m1, is equal to 1/2. So, gagamitin na natin na new coefficient sa auxiliary equation would be 2, 2, and negative 12. So, that would be, and minus mo yung third degree since nakuha na natin yung isang root. So, 3 minus 1 to the second degree na lang. So, that would be 2m squared plus 2m minus 12, which is equal to 0. So, mapapansin natin na 2 and 2 and negative 12 are all divisible by 2. So, divide mo by 2. That would become m squared plus m minus 6 is equal to 0. And since this is quadratic equation, pwede mo makuha yung root gamit yung quadratic formula or just by simply factoring it. So, pag factor natin, that would be m plus 3 and m minus 2. Diba? Oo, so pag i-final method mo, makakakuha mo. Then, therefore, your m sub 2 would be negative 3 and your m sub 3 would be negative 2. I mean, positive 2. So, plug in mo yung mga roots na nakuha mo dun sa general formula ng ating auxiliary equation. So, the general formula would be y, which is equal to c1e raised to the power of m1x plus c2e raised to the power of m2x plus c3e raised to the power of m3x and so on and so forth. Cne raised to the power of mnx. So, i-plug in mo na siya, y which is equal to c1. Again, di mo makukuha muna yung c1 since this is an arbitrary constant. So, c1e raised to the power of m1. So, m1 is 1/2 x plus c2e. Your m2 is negative 3. Negative 3x plus c3e raised to the power of 2x.